Hey, what's going on, good people? Time for another episode of Russ Can Fly. That is so much easier to say. The incongruence between my YouTube channel and what I was saying in terms of my introduction just didn't match. So now that Russ Can Fly, you know, matches the YouTube channel, it just feels so much better. So at any rate, as you can see, it's beautiful out here today. I know I'm bugging, but see, not too much action on my windsock. So it's definitely a time to fly. So I'm about to go over to the airport and get my next flight lesson under my belt. I'm telling you, I'm getting so excited because I'm actually learning how to do this. Some of the ground school stuff, some of that kind of materials, I'm starting to learn those types of things. So, but at any rate, rather than ramble on, subscriber shout out time. I want to give a huge subscriber shout out to my man, Ralph Brogdon. Hey, brother Ralph, listen. I really appreciate the support for the channel. I see a lot of times you share the channel with other people. I definitely appreciate it, brother. You know, I'm just trying to do this thing. Hopefully one of these days you join me, because that's the whole point of this YouTube channel, is to inspire others to at least think about the idea of getting involved in general aviation. I'm having a blast, and I got to tell you, I'm more than willing to share my experience in real time with people if you're so interested. So Ralph, thank you for supporting the channel. All right, let's get out of here. Russ Can Fly, check. Yeah, Derek found my
your phone.
my foggles. Fuel selector, let's put that on both. Fuel shutoff valve. This guy right here.
Make sure that's all the way in there. That's it. Yeah,
That's it. Is this that I gotta catch it?
Yeah. So when you turn the key to start, as it's starting, make sure just go all the way in.
All the way in. All right, my plane.
Your plane.
Good. Your plane.
My controls. Mine's good.
Very good.
Like a little shifty, annoying. Might be a little bumpy when we take off, but hopefully it's nice up there.
Yeah, it's like winds at 7.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is where you want to take this one slowly. Look at all these things.
So see the moves. Opposite.
All this stuff is good.
Yeah.
The more you do it, the easier it is to look at them all at once and even verbalize it. So I just always start heading indicator, magnet comes moving in the right direction freely, and then turn indicator is the right direction and the ball is opposite.
Gotcha.
That's really all I say. Like on a 5-mile final, and then those two taxiing. Little birds right there.
Yeah, I see that.
Hold on, I got it.
Your controls. So you're going to see a crazy situation. My CFI is going to take control of the airplane. Look to the right of my head. You're going to see a flock of turkey vultures. Very dangerous situation. I've never seen anything like this before.
Wings 477 Whiskey, 6 mile final, 24 wings.
But I take it we got to go back around.
No, we're good.
Henry traffic, Cruise 143 Bravo is doing a steep spiral over the field, currently 6,700 descent. Henrich.
And wings, there's a lot of birds on both sides of the runway. Wings.
What was that last call at wings?
There's a decent amount of birds around the runway on both sides of them.
Affirmative. Wings 477 Whiskey, 5 mile final, 24 into wings.
Henry Departing traffic, Cirrus 143, Sierra Bravo is doing a steep spiral over the field, currently 5,800 descending, Cambridge.
Good. A couple weeks off, he's still fine, right?
Yeah, trying to. Definitely trying to.
It's nice and smooth.
Yeah, it's not too bad. A little something. So I wanted to take a minute to talk about that whole bird situation. And there's a couple aspects that happened during that takeoff that were just so beyond crazy. So one of the things that you have to be careful is animals, specifically birds. I mean, birds can bring down a jet plane. They destroy jet engines all the time. And so when you're talking about a small general aviation plane like the one that I'm flying, hitting a flock of birds could do serious damage to the airframe, to the point where, you know, we take off, we hit a flock of birds and that thing becomes unable to fly. Definitely not a cool situation. But the other thing that happened is my CFI ended up doing a short field takeoff, which is something I've never done, where you're basically halfway down the runway. Normally you want to do it short of the runway, but here we were halfway down. He was like, nah, we can go ahead and take off. And I'm like, oh dude, wait, what? So definitely an interesting lesson to be learned there, about, you know, airplane hazards.
Okay. Alright. Power 1500.
And then as you're slowing down, you start increasing that pitch a little bit.
And departing traffic on the
First bunch of flaps.
Stay outside of your base, or downwind turn.
And now
Yeah, I
we
got
get
you. I'm about ready to turn downwind.
on the flaps.
Good.
Get that pitch up.
Now right about now, start increasing the power. Don't need too much, right? Just enough to slow down right above 45 to 50. And this is going to be difficult. It's going to be hard today, all right? Just do the best you can.
Okay.
I'll help you.
York traffic, Skyhawk 61 Hotel on a 45 entering 11.
So let that speed come down. Maybe take out that power a little bit to let the speed come down. But yeah, right about here is good. We'll give it a little extra speed because of the bumpiness today. I would add a little bit more power. And then use trim, right? Just use trim. Probably a lot of nose up trim to kind of keep it here.
And then the traffic
Probably a little bit too much. Not a little too much power as well.
So we want to keep it right around 60?
50, really, 50.
Oh, 50? Okay.
Yeah. And we're climbing a little bit, so maybe take out a little bit of power, right? If you see yourself climbing, just the pitch can stay the same like this, right?
Okay.
But the power is where you would deal with that problem.
Okay.
What we're doing here is we're doing something called slow flight, and I'm actually flying pretty much between 60 and 65 miles per hour. That's it. I mean, you go faster than that on like the turnpike or like highways. But slow flight is where you learn how to coordinate the plane so that as you get closer to a landing situation, you're able to coordinate it when you're closer to the ground. So that's what this practice is all about. Making sure that you don't do anything crazy and you're coordinated so that when you're closer to the ground, you don't have issues.
Even less. To kind of see where you level off there. Without really changing the pitch too much, so pitch still remains the same.
Okay.
Left base 35, full stop.
So I want to keep my pitch 10?
Yeah, right about there. What this looks like, or this kind of reminds you, the pitch kind of idea is supposed to remind you of like this is what it looks like when we're about to land, you know?
Right.
Maybe add a little bit more power. Just a little bit, yeah. Right about here should be good. This is perfect. If you could stay here, a little bit more power. A little less nose up, maybe a little bit.
Now, do you hear that little whining sound in the background? That's called a stall horn, S-T-A-L-L, or the plane stalls. So that is a warning sound when the wing is basically not producing any more lift and the plane is stalling. Not in terms of like an engine stall, but just think of like the plane no longer having enough lift to keep it flying. So that noise is basically telling you you don't have enough speed to keep the plane flying, so do something. And you know, it is the most annoying sound, but it warns you that the plane is going to like cease to fly.
Nothing more than that, right?
Yeah.
Just nice and
easy.
nice and easy, right? And it doesn't feel like you want to do anything drastic, right? With the mushiness of the controls.
Right.
Yeah, that's all.
You see it go so.
Midfield, left down on 30 Somerset, looking for TBM on final.
Alright. How about a left turn to the west?
About 7 miles, you may want to just...
Left turn to the west.
Good. So it seems like once you get into it, you're good.
Yeah.
Just getting into it, right? And that's
Just
what
trying
that's
to
gonna
get that
happen.
feel and
That's gonna
finding
get
the right.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
gonna get a little. Just with more practice, you'll get into it right away.
And we practice these turns during slow flight too, to make sure that I know how to stay coordinated in slow flight while I'm turning. Very important skill.
What's that TBM 5
Good.
miles
All
final?
right. How about a descent now on this heading? Actually, let's turn
2 miles to the north.
to that heading,
Landing.
and then I'll descend down to 4,500 meters.
Okay.
It's going to extend or lift downwind.
Remember, it's power for.
TBM in sight, 30 Somerset.
You might need to reduce the pitch a tiny bit, but not too much, right?
Okay.
Just power, so you just take out that power until you start seeing a descent come in right there. It's power for altitude.
Somerset driver Cherokee 578 is going to be doing some right 360s on the downwind.
Don't worry, don't need to rush or anything like that. It'll come down on its own there. But now you have a descent going a little bit, right? 100 foot per minute. There you go, it's good. And you're not in a rush.
Yeah, just let the plane do its thing.
Mike Juliet, currently at 2,000. We're about 10 miles to the west, inbound for a full stop landing. Millville traffic.
Mamba traffic 122 short play runway 32. TBM 3 mile final.
131 Quebec.
This is one where you want to maybe 50 to 100 feet before, you want to start leading it with a little bit of power, kind of catch it before.
Okay.
It kind of descends below your... There's a lot of wind coming in from the right here, kind of just drifting.
Drifting.
Re-entering the pattern on about a 2 mile left base 30 Somerset. We have the TBM in sight, you're number 1.
Alright, we're coming up on it.
And check out the propeller in the front of the plane. Now, of course, it's spinning much faster than it looks here, but that just gives you some indication of how slow we're actually going. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good idea to keep in mind of what kind of power setting you had before to remain level. I kind of forgot as well, but before and when we do it again.
Last call.
Good.
Perfect.
Downwind, runway 36. Great.
35 York.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think you're around 18.
Yeah, if you see yourself coming down a little bit more, just add a little bit more
17.
power.
Okay.
Wings traffic, Cirrus 205 at Echo Charlie at Dipper, taxiing runway 24 wings.
That's it. Just a little bit more power, I think.
Naval traffic, Skylane 8 Mike Juliet, 5 miles
A little
to
bit
the
more.
west, 1,500. We'll be entering a left down.
Good. Alright, how about a turn to that heading? Actually, we'll just go all into the north.
Now, when
Okay.
you see my CFI go towards one of the instruments, he's doing something called turning a heading bug.
We're
and
gonna be
that
going
just
right into
gives
the
me
wind
the
now.
direction he wants me to
So
fly.
I'm gonna get more lift.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
might have to take some power out.
Maybe. Just see where it does,
Okay.
We already have a climb going right there. You see that?
Yeah.
I love how you already know what that means. It's really important. You become such a better pilot if you understand
Like what?
how the air is moving around the plane.
Right.
Understand what's happening. The density of the air, how it's reacting with the engine, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So you saw it now. Look, right? We're
Yeah, we're
right?
climbing.
It's okay that you didn't catch it, but you understood that that's what's going to happen when we
Right.
turned into the wind.
Full stop,
as those flaps down, we're going to have a lot more lift going into the wind.
Exactly. You'll look down, we're barely moving.
Flying in place.
I think if you get a strong enough wind, you can actually go backwards.
Now look out the
I've never seen
window
it,
past my head and you'll see we are basically flying in place. It's crazy in slow flight in the wind.
So now like, you were at like 1800 RPM over there, staying level. Now you're at about 1550, 1600.
Yeah.
Alright, how about a climb up to 4,700? Because of the power again. Pitch stays the same. Keep that pitch the same. Just add power.
Excuse me, Miller traffic, 8 Mike Juliet entering left downwind for...
Try the best of your ability to stay on that north heading.
Miller traffic.
Keep adding that power.
And believe it or not, flying slow like this is making me a better pilot. Slow flight is some of the most dangerous flight. I mean, because again, this is when you're coming in for a landing normally. You've got flaps in, the controls are real mushy, so you have to understand everything that's happening. This is where a lot of airplane accidents happen on landings because people are not proficient in slow flight.
Probably more power. The reason you don't want to go full power is because that might be too much power and you'd be going too fast.
Right.
So some of the standards for this is you have to be like within 5 to 10 knots of your stall speed. You have to be like on the headings you're on, the altitudes you're on. Yeah, so that's the reason you don't go full power when you're climbing.
Gotcha.
Because if you go full power, you'd be climbing, you'd be going too fast. And then the goal is also not to hear the stall horn come on or stall the plane at all. But if you do hear the stall horn, like even on a check ride or something like that, just what's the fix there? Do you remember? Just a quick fix.
Nose down.
Just reduce the angle of attack.
Reduce the angle of attack.
That's it. Just nose down a little bit, then that stall horn will go away. It doesn't matter if you hear I mean, you don't want to hear the stall horn like on a check ride on doing this maneuver. But if you do, it's really important to have that quick correction. That'll show like an examiner or anything like that you know what you're doing.
Right, gotcha.
Millville traffic, Skylane 8 Mike Juliet turning left base for 32 Millville traffic.
Perfect. And then we'll keep on working on this to the point where you can start getting into it.
Right.
Getting into it a little quicker, you know?
Yeah.
But once you get into it, you're perfectly fine, you know?
Yeah, it's just getting it, especially when it was a little bumpy at first, yeah.
Exactly, right?
Mike Juliet turning 5
Alright,
for 3.
so can you, while we're in here just a little bit, can you talk me through a power off stall?
Okay, so power off stall. So
6299 kilos, 7 to the south. We'll be entering left downwind for left traffic runway 32.
I know we go power to idle. I just don't know if we do something before we do that.
Alright, so you think about it, so I'd add a little bit more power. To think about it, it's we're simulating this coming into land, right? So you want to get into like kind of like a landing, coming into land configuration. So we're already in at flaps and all that kind of stuff, mixtures rich, all this kind of stuff is good. You're just setting it up, right? So we have to bring the nose down, like a descent, like you're coming into land, about 65 knots, and a 500 foot per minute descent, like just to have a descent going.
Okay.
And then once you get to a certain altitude, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get to 4,500, 4,400. And then at that point you go power idle and maintain altitude, like you're flaring to land.
Okay.
All right.
Gotcha.
Just maintain that altitude, and then once you stall, how do you recover from the stall?
So basically, full power. First notch of flaps out.
So the first thing really is reduce angle of attack.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, but it's the same time with this, you want to do full power, so it's simultaneously reduce angle of attack, full power.
So add full power, reduce angle of attack.
And then once you pick enough airspeed up, so you don't want to pull up too early, but as soon as you feel the airplane flying again, you start pitching up. You still want to be quick about it, but you don't want to be too fast where you get into another stall. Start climbing, and then how do you take out the flaps?
So then once you see 65 and a positive rate, then you can take out the rest of the flaps.
Yeah, good. So then the first notch, right, comes out right away.
Right.
And then after that.
Gotcha.
All right, so you could try and do that right now, right?
Okay.
Stay on this heading.
Okay,
So I would bring the power to like 1500 probably, and then the nose come down, like you're coming into land.
And I'm gonna bring it to,
Yeah, let's see what we can get to.
because we're looking for 65.
Yeah, probably 4,400 will be the number. Like we're coming into land here. Good, so once you get to 4,400, go power idle and maintain altitude.
Okay.
99 kilos, about 3
Power idle.
For left down, 1 for 3.
Maintain, they need a lot of pullback.
152 is now being...
First notch of flaps.
99 kilos traffic about...
Got 65.
If you want to get a
Positive
65,
rate.
not yet, right? 65, you want to pull. Get that
Oh,
nose
reduce
down
the angle tide.
to
Okay.
get that speed to come up a little bit more. And then, yeah, good. That was good. That was good.
So did you see the way that nose dropped down? You could see the sky, and then all of a sudden, boom, nothing. It's like the plane nose just almost slams down. That's basically a stall. And basically what happens there, stop saying basically so much. At any rate, what happens there is the wings stop producing lift, and the plane basically starts to, there it is again. The plane begins to fall out of the sky. It stalls. Now, the reason why you do these exercises, the slow flight maneuvering, this all prepares you for landing, because this is exactly what you do. The only thing is we're doing it at a nice safe altitude just in case something goes wrong. We go into a spin or something crazy. We have plenty of time to catch ourselves. But this whole thing is basically preparing for what it feels like to come in for a landing. And when you get down to the runway, you do a controlled stall or a flare, basically. And what happens is once you come down to the runway, and you'll see this in the landing, which is coming up next, the plane comes down to the runway, and you basically hover above it until the wings no longer produce any lift. The plane stalls to the ground, and you land nice and easy.
First notch.
Don't let that nose come up too high. Good, right here too high, and then the flaps come up. That's perfect, right? You can do that over and do that perfectly the whole time. You lost about a little less than 100 feet. It's perfect.
So that whole thing was slow flight, and what this whole lesson was to prepare for what's about to happen. So we're actually coming in for landing, and we are now in a slow flight or a dirty configuration for the plane. I have full flaps in, my airspeed, well, my throttle is set to 1500 RPMs, and I am slowing and descending. And so really right now what I'm focusing on is doing everything I was doing during my training. Keeping the wings level, keeping that nose coming down, making sure I stay coordinated, and adjust to any of the wind gusts. And so this is where all of that slow flight practice comes into play on this landing. So I'm just gonna let this landing play out, and as I land, listen for the stall horn. You'll hear that obnoxious squeaking sound in 3, 2, 1, go.
So you see how it's like tricky there.
Yeah.
If you have a little extra speed, that's good. It's not coming in with that extra speed. It really gets.
All right, so just finished that flight lesson. Man, so many little things that come up. Every time I fly, you think you're gonna have a standard flight and it's no big deal, and it is absolutely a big deal. I don't know if you were able to see, because I don't know when my camera died. I'm gonna have to check and see. But there was basically a dozen turkey vultures on the runway when we were getting ready to take off. So I didn't know what to do, so my CFI had to figure all of that out. And then of course there's some wind and all that kind of stuff. So unfortunately by then my camera had died. So we were coming in, instead of the nose being like this, it was actually off to the side, so we were flying sideways. That was a little spooky, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you can go ahead and, you know, do this landing. I'll just have my hands on the controls. So every flight is a unique and different flight. That's why your fundamentals just have to be tight. So anyway, I thank you for joining me on this flight. I thank you for joining me on this whole journey. Again, the whole point of this is, even if you're slightly considering, I ask that you go ahead and make this happen. Yes, it is very challenging. Yes, there's a ton to learn. Yes, it is sometimes a little scary and frustrating, but at the end of the day, it is definitely all worth it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So anyway, thank you for joining me. Russ can fly. I'm out. Fly! All right, see ya. Peace.